So be it, Jedi.
What's going on, guys? Back in another video, another episode of Read or Skip It. And today we're going to be talking about The Adventures of Lando Calrissian. 3 books, published all in one, a trilogy of short stories, talking about Lando and his events before the original trilogy. The first novel is Lando Calrissian and the Mind Harper Sharu. In this story, he somehow gets strong-armed or bamboozled into searching for the Mind Harper Sharu that belonged to an ancient species that somehow disappeared or went extinct. Nobody knows really what happened to them, but they were allegedly of higher intelligence and a higher level of technology than what we know now. One of the main antagonists of the story is a sorcerer of Tund, which all these things are new to me. It's the first time hearing about him. His name is Roker Gepta. Somehow the sorcerers of Tund are like an ancient sect of wizards. Somehow maybe that coincides with the Force. I don't know. It's not really explained. And he wants the Mind Harper Sharu because, of course, it's in the name. Allegedly, the Mind Harp can control people's minds, and he wants to dominate that part of the galaxy. Well, throughout this adventure, Lando meets a droid named Vufi Ra. Bear with me. Who has 5 appendages. He sort of looks like an octopus, but he's highly intelligent, somehow almost sentient. And it really makes you think about droid rights and droid sentience. Are they, if they're near human, do they have the same rights as human beings or other aliens? I don't know. But by the end, they end up finding the mind harp, and they go throughout this weird, almost psychedelic pyramid / maze where they're shrunken down and blown up as giants. It's super weird. Like, I gotta say off the bat, these stories are very odd. They are decent, very well written, but they are just way out there in terms of anything you would associate with Star Wars. So by the end, Lando and Vufi Ra somehow thwart Roker Gepta and get away. Well, that brings us into our next novel, Lando Calrissian and the Flame Wind of Ocean. Now, some time has passed between the first and second novel. It's really not disclosed, but you can assimilate that there has been some things going on in between. Well, in this adventure, Lando gets caught and pretty much, again, strong-armed into going to arrest somebody, some higher up, and he has to travel through the Flame Wind, which I guess you could equate to Aurora Borealis or the Northern Lights, but of course in space everything is crazy. It's a cosmic storm. Well, they make it to the planet and they find out that the guy they're supposed to arrest is actually Roker Gepta, and he wants revenge against Lando. He captures him, starts to torture him, but then somehow Lando gets set free and they escape again. Third novel, Lando Calrissian and the Star Cave of Thon Boca. Bear with me. He encounters an alien or some animal in space that is large and somehow can speak via radio waves and project images with his mind and communicate with Vufi Ra almost telepathically. And it's sort of described that he's like a whale. And that kind of made me think about the space whales we see in Rebels and Ahsoka. And it made me think, well, do they sort of pull from that when they made those space whales, because these things can travel through hyperspace? They're just different. Well, he ends up meeting this whale thing and decides to help him out because Roker Gepta and his band of people want to destroy them because, of course, to the Empire, that would be a threat. So by the end of it, Lando ends up finding out that Roker Gepta wasn't even a sorcerer. He was just some shape-shifting frog guy. Yeah, bear with me. I sort of repressed these stories. I didn't have a good time reading them. Lando is fine. I love Lando in the Thrawn trilogy and the Thrawn duology. Any other expanding universe books I've read with Lando in them, I've enjoyed, because he plays a side character. He does his own thing. He goes on his little quest, and he communicates with our main heroes. But Lando on his own in this context is, I don't want to say boring, because he's very well written, but you're just predisposed to not really be interested. I sort of equate Lando as like that friend in the friend group that He's cool when everybody's together and in the group, but you'd never really hang out with him by himself, and that's kind of how I felt. Uh, these books are very well written. The author did a good job, but the subject matter is just very strange, very un-Star Warsy, if that even makes sense. But keep in mind, these were very early books. I mean, we didn't have a whole hell of a lot to go off of in terms of the Force and everything. And kind of think of it, if you took Lando and any other mention, the Millennium Falcon, out of this story, it would just play like a normal fantasy sci-fi story, which I guess you could do that with all Star Wars, but it just, I really didn't have a good time. And maybe later down the road, I'll sort of learn to appreciate them better because they are very early books and they sort of helped lay the foundation for the EU and what it is now. But man, to be honest, by the time the third book rolled around, I didn't even finish reading it. I just listened to like the last 50 or so pages on YouTube as an audiobook, just because I was having that hard of a time getting through it. Now, this is the first one in a while, but I really got to say I can't recommend this book unless you're a diehard Lando fan, unless you're just hell bent on reading all of the EU. I think that most of you, probably aren't going to have a good time reading this. First one in a while. I know we finished the Republic Commando series. That burned me out. I read Courtship of Princess Leia, which I really enjoyed for the most part. Keep in mind, I had just come off of Imperial Commando 501st, and that was dog water. So jumping from a decent book into this trilogy of books that pretty much spans 600 pages by the time you're done reading all three, I was just burned out. So I took a couple weeks off, didn't really pick nothing up, didn't really record any videos, so I apologize for that. Right now, I'm just about to wrap up Cloak of Deception, which I've enjoyed for the most part. Looking forward to reviewing that. But man, sometimes when you read a bad story, you just don't want to pick up anything for a couple weeks. You want to take a break. And it's disappointing. As much as I love the expanding universe, as much as I plan to read all the adult novels, there are some stinkers. As I said, this book isn't bad. These stories aren't bad. They're just not for me, I guess you could say. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Have you read this story where you're looking forward to reading this story and now you're turned away from it? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching, and hope I see you on the next one.